It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jon.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
the content creators for Friday Night Games. We want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by educating and entertaining you through our board gaming adventures. Our podcast lands every Friday, and we create content for Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure you check out our sponsor, TabletopRenaissance.ca, which is located in our hometown of Windsor, Ontario. Check out their website at TabletopRenaissance.ca for delivery options, pre-orders, and a large selection of minis.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about storytelling in board games. We're going to feature games from the same company, Story Machine Games, who uses this element in their games to drive home the theme. So we're going to talk about if using our imagination to drive story make for a good game night. Is it for everyone? We're going to have a quick overview of Rosetta the Lost Language and Sacred Rites and how they tie in storytelling into gameplay. And if we could think of any funny stories from our time playing these games. Let's rock it, Matt.
So, does using your imagination to drive a story make a good game night? What do you think, Jon?
I think, heck yeah. I mean, anytime that you can utilize a board game to drive these, ideas out of your head to help push the game further along, I think it's just super interesting to me. A lot of board games that we play are just simple, like put your worker here, grab a card, play a card, blah, 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 blah. And the interactions that we have, I don't want to say it's not fun, but when you're using this storytelling element in the game where you're trying to tell something to move the game along, I think just brings out just like something a little bit more special, I guess. Maybe like another side of someone you normally wouldn't see on your game night. I think it makes for an interesting dynamic, especially with our group, because we have such a wide range of personalities that I think this type of game really lets those shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. For my opinion, which is just my opinion, what is it, Jon, that you think of when you go to a typical game night at my house? Like, what is it?
What do I think?
Like, what does it look like? Like, paint a picture of it for our listeners.
Usually, I get in my car, my driveway.
Yeah.
I throw on some good music, like some hard metal or something.
You cry a bit before you
cry a bit. Yeah. I drive the whole 2 minutes to your house.
Right, but you speed most of the way.
Yeah. No, when I get to your house, usually you have like the game set up. Mm-hmm. You teach it to us a little bit if we haven't learned it before. It depends on who's there.
Right.
So, sometimes if our normal group generally right now is like Bill, Novi, yourself, and me, and we just get into it. And then depending on what type of game we're playing.
So like, what are the games normally like? Assume it's like me, you, Bill, Novi.
Yeah, we're usually playing like either some sort of like worker placement game or we just play. I don't know, man. We just play like a variety of stuff.
Yeah, we do play a variety, but a lot of times.
So it's tough to like pinpoint.
When you
exactly,
I guess what I'm trying to say is when you think of like a typical like board game, you think of like something like strategy, right? Like everyone's sitting down, they're gonna play something with a lot of thinking or worker placement, or you gotta like set your moves. You're always determining what the best moves are, right? Maybe a game where you have to protect an area using resources. Like those are the types of games I think that when you think of a board game night, that's what you think people are playing. Am I wrong?
Right. Nope, you are correct.
Yes, and so I know I am. No. So these games, I feel like they involve a lot of logic, a lot of strategy found in the mechanics of the game itself. You have been given the system, which has been like laid out, which is usually me teaching everyone, right? So I lay out the system in front of you. I give you your goal. And then it's kind of up to everyone at the table to kind of figure out how to manipulate this system so you or your team or whoever or everybody can win, right?
Right.
And so where my opinion comes in is that I believe that using your imagination to drive a story is a fun way to do something different during a game night, right? So it moves away from this. There might be a win condition for any of these games, right? But the win condition is more subjective, a more subjective choice than the result of a system, meaning that you're using like creativity, right? There's no more strategy involved. Maybe it becomes about being funny or pretending someone else or pretending you're someone else, or exploring a new world, or thinking a totally different way. You know, it's way different than like analyzing a system and trying to be like efficient at it. Wow, okay, I'm done. See y'all later. Do you agree with me on those points?
Yeah, like and that's what I love about these types of games. Like they just unlock something different for me on game nights. You know, there's not a lot of games out there other than like RPG games that really take storytelling to, you know, that type of level that I've been finding. So I think the two games that we're going to talk about a little later on, like really bring like something different to the table. You know, pun intended, I guess. But that just makes the game night a little bit better, in my opinion. But just to get away from those, you know, heavier games, you know, those really thinky games, it's just something that's like, hey, let's just use our brain a little bit differently tonight and exercise it in a way that will be fun for everybody.
Yeah, let's get away from the analysis of a system, right? Or analysis paralysis, which could be a problem in those games. But let's get away from that. Let's do something that maybe your mind doesn't do often, and you might kind of have a little bit of fun doing. Or you'll hate it. Or you won't want to do it. Because you're so analytical, you don't want to do it. It totally happens, too.
Do you think this game is for everyone? Do you think this type of game is for everyone?
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think you need the right group. I kind of said earlier, like maybe an analysis person may have a harder time doing this. But really, when you look at it, you know, here's three things you really got to consider. Does your group want to sit around and be in their own thoughts? Because they may not want to be. Right? They may want to just escape whatever thoughts are going through their mind, because that's what's going to influence your creativity, right? So they may just want to escape that. So maybe they don't want to be in their own thoughts, or maybe they do. Maybe they're like, oh, all I do all day is I sit in front of a computer and do analytical things with my mind. I need to be more creative with myself. Totally happens too, right?
Yep.
Point two, does the group want to be learning a new system? You know, that kind of goes back on the previous point. You know, do you want to sit there for half an hour and learn all about how this thing works? Do you really want to deep dive into Twilight Imperium? Like, do you want to sit there trying to learn Twilight Imperium and then play it for 8 hours? You know, or do you want it to be casual? You know, you have like a beer and you just want to like throw funny jokes, right? And that's kind of what these imagination things do. They let you be creative. They let you have the outlet to be funny. And then the other thing is, how imaginative is your group? Because if they're not, this thing is gonna go this thing is gonna be on fire. Fast, you know.
Big old dumpster fire. Yeah. I think that's kind of like what I was gonna say. You know, just I think it can be for everybody, but I think everyone has to be in the right mindset to play, especially if you want to take the game seriously. Like, these games can go either way, like be super serious or super hilarious.
Right. Just as like a note, like Pictionary is kind of like one of these games, right? And it's a competitive game, but it could also be super funny too if you want to make it funny.
Yeah, and I think everyone should at least try it out, because, you know, most board gamers that I know like role-playing games, and I know they like storytelling elements. So why not make it just like a lighter, fun version and just have a lighter game night that's just fun, and then we're just having a grand old time. Like, I really enjoyed playing the two games that we're going to talk about. You know, we played one with our group and then one with your wife, and I had a great time both times. And, you know, for different reasons. I really, really, really enjoyed just using a different part of my brain on game night, I guess, is where I'm excited about talking about this subject.
I think, like, you know, you probably at work, you're probably not very creative. You're probably very analytical. Right. And when you come, sure, we play a lot of analytical games where you're learning a system. So just a break like that's really nice. And I know, like, you're probably more of a creative mind. Like, you know, you were an artist at one point. You like drawing. Like, you have a lot of that creativity. So you probably want to exercise that more than you're allowed.
Yep. Sir.
I know you. So what are these two games that we're going to talk about?
All right. So first I want to thank Story Machine.
Before you say that, I lied. I know what games they are. Go ahead.
So first off, I want to thank Story Machine Games for sending us these 2 games to play and preview on our socials and stuff. We've had these games for a little while, but I don't think we actually featured them on our podcast before. But the first game they sent us about this time last year was Rosetta the Lost Language. And then they sent us another game called Sacred Rites. So Rosetta the Lost Language was designed by John Onato and the art by Michaela Don. In this game, players take on the role of experts who try to understand the written language of the author, another player who represents a lost individual, community, or civilization. The author assigns a meaning to an inscription that is written in a fictional script, and the experts must figure out what that meaning is. The experts choose a word as a guess, and the author translates it into the given script, informing their understanding of the written system. And players have 10 guesses to guess what the meaning is of the inscription before they lose the game. And there's different things that help along the way to give hints and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this game when we played it, Matt?
You know, when I first saw it, I wasn't completely into it. I'm going to be very honest.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know. Is this for me? Like, is this for a group? Like, sometimes it's tough to gauge, right? But then we actually started playing it. I'm like, wow, this game's actually really good. It is really good. And I kind of thought was like, oh, this is kind of like a hidden gem. I'm actually surprised no one's talking about it. Maybe because marketing budget on Story Machine Games. But I'm like, wow, this game actually has I can actually bring it out with a wide variety of people. We can bring it out and we're having a lot of fun playing it. A lot of fun joking around, a lot of fun making fun of each other. Because it allows for those interactions, which is really clever.
Yeah, and so in this game, if I can describe it a little bit better, there's these beautifully drawn kind of like scenery cards, and you have to draw your inspiration on what the transcript means from these beautiful illustrations. And if I can talk about a little funny moment with our gameplay of this, we played with Bill and Novi. 2 of us decided to go pretty serious with the game, and then the other 2 went funny.
Who was funny?
I think Bill and I were actually serious, and you and Novi were trying to be funny with it, if I'm remembering correctly.
No surprises there.
I was actually surprised Bill went serious.
Bill's pretty competitive,
being honest. But what my memory of the game was, Mike was the last person to go, and he had an underwater scenario or scene. Sorry,
it looked like, here, let me paint it. It looked like Atlantis, like a sunken Atlantis with statue with a giant statue in the middle or something like that.
Yeah. And I think maybe a shark floating in there somewhere.
Yes.
And his clue was, or his meaning was shark fin soup.
Yeah. Oh my.
And we just were not getting it, and he was getting frustrated because we weren't getting his clues.
What were we trying to guess though? Do you remember?
Probably everything but.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was all underwater, so we're probably saying shark. We're probably saying I don't know.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
It's just underwater themed answers.
Yeah.
And he's talking about shark fin soup. Oh man.
Underwater, under drowning. No man, no shark fin soup. Oh my. Yeah, I do remember that moment. It was really funny, and I think that's one of the moments where the game really, actually, it's funny to say this, but the miscommunication is where the game really shined.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, what are you trying to make us guess? This is crazy. Well, it's because he had to associate the picture with his card, and the card was soup, right?
Right.
So that's why it became shark fin soup. So we're like, oh my, I don't know what he's talking about.
And I like to when you're playing the game.
And before you say it, we were doing that for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone else was kind of quick. we get to that one. We're 10 minutes. Oh man.
What's cool about this game too is that there's blank cards. So if you're on the right path to the answer, the author draws kind of something from the inscription to help you move along your way. And I don't know. It's just a cool, fun game to play. Just simple.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I played it with. Another funny thing, I played with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
But that day, I think we got in a fight or an argument or something. So we were just we're not playing this to its full potential.
Oh, so it was like an angry version of it almost.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it was actually pretty fun. She actually reminded me of that as I was writing the notes for this.
Remember that day we got a really big fight?
Yeah.
Oops.
You wanted to play that game? So yeah, Rosetta Lost Language by Story Machine Games. Check it out. It's a little hidden gem that we enjoyed playing.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm going to be a hipster here, board game hipster. I'm definitely going to say is a very good game that you should try out. Definitely give it a shot. It's very well made, and it was a ton of fun.
So yeah, the second game that they sent us during our lockdown, so we weren't able to get it to the table as soon as I wanted it to, but it's a game called Sacred Rites, designed by Julia Corwer and John Onato, and art by Christina Derrick. In Sacred Rites, players take the mantles of believers who privately are informed of the topic of a rite. So the catch, sometimes none, of the believers are left out, making them outsiders. Each believer then submits what they recall of the rite, such as chants, time of day, food for the feast, or special shapes, and you kind of have to be creative with it. Each believer has helped remember the rite, and then an accusation occurs. Can each believer point out an outsider? Can the outsider fake their way through it and guess the topic? In the end, only the most confident and creative and devout among the believers will be declared the winner and master of ceremonies of the sacred of rites.
So just before you go on, I'm just going to explain a little bit of the mechanics. Basically, you're going to have these cards in front of you, and so if you're a believer, you can see the sacred rite card that's being passed around. You have like a window in your card. If you're a non-believer or an outsider, you have a card that you cannot see the card at all. So it's like you have like a little envelope, you flip it in, you either have a window if you're a believer or you don't if you're an outsider. And then you have a card in front of you that says something, which John said shapes. It could be smells, it could be like color, it could be like motion. So you might get a card that says like water, and then you have the card in front of you that says motion. So as a believer, you'd see it in your envelope and you'd be like, the motion of the sacred rite, which is water that no one knows other than you, is, I don't know, fluid. That's pretty obvious, right? So you say it like that, and then take the card out of your envelope, put it face down, and you pass it to the next person. So what comes up is if the person cannot actually read the card because he's an outsider, they have to like go on the previous clues. So and then once everyone finishes, then you point out who you think an outsider is or not. And actually, you can have multiple outsiders or you could have 0 outsiders in a game.
Right. Depending on how many players you have,
Right.
I think what's really funny is when we played with your wife.
We did.
And I think I was the first person to go, and I was the outsider, and I made something, I don't know I forget what the right was at all, but I made something up, and she kind of gave me like a weird look.
Mm-hmm.
and then she was like, the sound of your sacred rite is bullshit.
No, that was me. I said that.
Oh, did you?
I'm the one who said that. But
I thought Sam said that.
I said that, but Sam looked at you, which inspired me to say that. Because you're totally. Were you first? Were you first too?
I think I was first to go.
Oh
yeah. I had to make it up like right off the bat.
And that's the funny thing about the game is that if you have to make it up right off the bat, that is the hardest thing you could do in that game. Because you're like, I don't know, you just have to be as general as possible. But then everyone's like, you're being way too general. Right? Although you did do it one game, you did actually start one of the games and you gave a hint, and me and Sam were believers and you were the outsider, and we actually, based on your hint, we actually thought you were not the outsider.
I'm good like that sometimes.
Yeah. It was really good, and it wasn't like too general either. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and like this game was like, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like when I first got it, and I was like trying to really think like, hey, is this going to be like really the right game for our group? And I think Bill and Novi might get a little kick out of it.
Oh, dude, they would love it. You know what? I actually recommended this to some people at work who I know they like collecting big party games, because this game could go up to like 8 or 9 people or something crazy. And I actually loved it. I'm like, this game is like not only for us, but it's for a large group of people. Like it is for like I'm sorry, not a group, but a range of tastes in board games. Like a lot of people could really like this game. And I actually kind of sad because I'm like, I don't think people know about this game. We're hipsters. We're like hipsters, man. This game is really like I actually, like I said, I'd recommend Rosetta, but I actually highly recommend this game. like highly.
Yeah, like I don't know, we played it and I was just like, dang, this game was a lot of fun because we were laughing like the entire time because like the rights that we were coming up with were just like absolutely ridiculous.
Oh my god, yeah, and the best part is like once you do a round, you know how the game works. So every round like got better and better as the game went on because we started realizing what the mechanics were. It was just so much fun by the last round. In fact, I didn't really want it to end. I wanted to keep going, but Sam wanted to go to sleep.
Awesome. So thanks again to Story Machine Games for sending us these two games. They also sent us another game, Danger Park, but that doesn't have the storytelling element in that game, but it was still a fun game to play.
Right, and we'll have a Twitch stream on that in April 2021.
Nice. Awesome, Matt.
Well, hold on. We gotta conclude this.
Yeah, let's conclude.
We need a conclusion here, right? Podcasting 101 told us, line 48 in Podcasting for Dummies, that we need to have a conclusion to all our podcasts. And so we want to get better, so that's what we're going to do. Well, I guess before we get to our conclusion, what other games have similar aspects that use imagination during gameplay? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
The only ones that come to mind are like D&D, Pathfinder.
Oh, those are heavy.
I know.
Those are heavy.
And then maybe some like party games, maybe like, maybe something like social deduction games like Werewolf or Blood in the Clock Tower.
Yeah, those you got to act.
Even Blood in the Clock Tower, not really.
I feel like there's like a logic aspect to it. I actually wrote down a couple. Yeah. Trial by Trolley gives you a little bit of imagination.
Oh yeah. I was actually thinking that too.
Yeah, because that's a really good one because you're constantly trying to like convince the other people using what information you have on the table. So that's really good. Mm-hmm. And then Mysterium is a really good one. And then did you play Gloom with us? I don't know if you ever played Gloom.
No, I haven't played it.
So that game is really cool. It's older. I'm sure our listeners probably know about it, but it's simply you have like these cards and you place like everyone has characters and you place a card on the character and you kind of tell a story as you place the card.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, actually we played it with our group. It didn't go over well. Because I don't know if people just weren't into like being creative that night or something. It's kind of sad. Okay, so those are a couple recommendations. So okay, here's a conclusion. You ready for it? Why would you want imagination in your game night?
Oh, yeah, for me, just to stop. Okay, I'm going to get a little deep dive here.
Yeah, I want to hear let's hold on. I got to pull up my notebook. I'm starting.
Crack my knuckles.
I got to write down Jon Deep. Go.
No, I think when you're using your imagination at game night, like I said before, I think it unlocks something different that normally would come to your table. So if you take our dynamic, for instance, in our board game group, especially between like, Mike and Bill, really good friends, but they know how to get on each other's nerves, right? Mm-hmm. And that does often, hinder our game night a little bit. I think with these types of games, it kind of maybe eliminates that a little bit because it's not a competitive thing.
Oh, it takes the tension away. Right?
Takes some tension away. Yeah, it makes the game night just sort of light and airy, and you just see like a different side of people, and everyone's laughing and having a good time the entire night. So I think that's why I like these games so much when we played them, because it was just like I saw a different side of everybody, and any game that we get to play with your wife is fun as well.
Yeah, I think it attracts a different group of people. Like my wife.
Yep.
My wife really likes playing those games. I feel like when we have a party, I could get more people to play those games than I can any other of the strategy games. You're like, okay, here, everyone sit down. You're going to learn the system for half an hour. No one wants to do that, right?
Right.
So I think these games kind of, not that all of them have that. I mean, like, for instance, Dixit's kind of it's a mashup of like a thinker / party, right? But it gets people who are not necessarily care about analyzing systems to play board games. And I think that breaks a mold on the stereotypical board gamer. Yeah, we just got deep there. And I do agree with your point, though. Like, for Bill and Novia, it breaks the tension, and it kind of like, when it gets everyone laughing and kind of making fun of each other for fun, it's a better atmosphere, more acceptable and enjoyable environment, to be honest.
I agree.
So there you go. There's a resolution. Bringing in everybody.
Yeah, so, storytelling of board games that isn't an RPG, I think is something really cool and interesting that you don't see in every board game. So thanks again to Story Machine Games for sending us those couple games to play. We really appreciate it. If you like what you hear, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you want us to feature a game, or if you have a game you'd like for us to feature, email us at info@fridaynight.games. Don't forget to check out our socials, Instagram at FridayNightGames_official, Twitter or Twitch at FridayNightGMS, our website, FridayNight.games, and you can search for us on YouTube. All right, and remember, we're
Matt
and John, and it's Friday night, so let's have some fun.